All right, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. And as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD, or Application and Website Development Program, and in particular the AWD 1111.NET Framework with Web Databases class for the fall 2019 semester, I'm creating a series of video presentations for the textbook that will be used for the class, and that is Pro ASP.NET MVC5, an A-Press text by Mr. Adam Freeman. I'm working my way through chapter 21 of 27, and I'm on the using the built-in form helper methods. As the author mentions, the MVC framework includes a selection of built-in helper methods you can use to manage creating HTML form elements. Okay? So, one of the most common forms of interaction in a web app is the HTML form. To demonstrate this, we're going to make some additions to the example project. First, we're going to create a person.cs class in the models folder. All right. And we're going to change the code on that, where we're going to be creating a person, and notice each person will have an ID, a first name, a last name, a birth date, a home address, whether or not they're approved for something, and their role. You can see that we've got various types here of data. An integer for the ID, strings for first and last name, date time for a birth date, address for a home address, Boolean for is approved, and role for role. All right. Now I was going to say, we may end up getting some errors in here. The system doesn't know what address is. The system doesn't know what role is, plus somehow I lost a curly brace. All right, but so those are the errors. It's okay. Why? Because there they are on the next page. All right, so there's the address, and there's the role. Okay. We also added new action methods to the home controller to use the model objects as shown. Well, these action methods are shown on the middle of page 600. So let's just grab the entire shebang, as we say, or as I say. All right, so this again will be what we're putting into the home controller. All right, so we've changed it to that. All right, we've added basically the create person stuff that you see down here. And you'll notice that with that, we've got a get, and we've got a post. I don't think personally it's a bad idea to come in here and put in, this is called decorating this. All right, just so you've got both the get and the post in there. You don't have to. And remember, since we've got the same signature here, we need to have to differentiate the signatures, so we need what we have inside of the parens to be different. All right. It says this is a standard two-method approach for dealing with forms, where we rely on model bindings so that the MVC framework will create a person object from the form data and pass it to the action method with a post attribute. I'm not processing the form data in any way because right now we're focused on how to generate elements in the view. The post just calls the view method and passes person object as a parameter, which has the effect of redisplaying the form to the user. All right, we're going to start with a standard HTML form and then show you how to replace different parts using helper methods. You can see the initial version, which shows the create person .cshtml, which was added to the Views Home folder. We should be able to come up to our Views Home folder and add and choose View. Call that Create Person. Keep it empty. Boom. That should be fine. There's different ways that we can create this stuff. All right, so let's put in the associated code. And there it is. Again, taken from page 601. The view contains a standard manually created form from which we set the value of the value attribute of the input elements using the model object. All right. We've created, it says, a view shared folder. Do we have a view shared? Views shared folder. All right. In which we have an underscore layout.cshtml, which we do. All right. The contents are shown in figure 2115. Well, maybe different contents than what we have in there right now. So let's change those so they look like this. Pretty simple, really. All right. It says you can see the basic form functionality by starting the application and iterating your way over to the home create person URL. Well, let's look. File, save all, run the program. And eventually iterate our way over to the home create person. I think that's what it was. And there it is. Now you'll notice a couple things. All right. Already has some formatting to it. Plus the person ID is automatically set to 0 because that was an integer field. All right. Now I'm going to leave that up for just a second. In 2116, you can see that the HTML has been sent to the browser. All right. It says, I will show you your changes caused by helper methods. So that's the HTML sent to the browser. All right. And we can check that ourselves by going back to our form, which I was lucky enough to keep up, and view page source. And there it is. Two of the most useful and most commonly used HTML helper methods are HTML.beginForm and HTML.endForm, as mentioned here on the bottom of page 603. And as the author mentions on this page, as I clear out, there we go. They create HTML form tags and generate a valid action attribute for the form based on the routing mechanism for the application. Notice that the begin form is an overridden method. As the author says here on the bottom of page 603, there's 13 different versions of this method, allowing you to be increasingly specific about how it's generated. We only need the most basic for the form example application, which takes no arguments. It creates a form element whose action attribute ensures the form will be posted back to the same action method. You can see how we applied this in 2117. The end form has only one definition, and it basically is going to add the ending form tag. So we've got it right here. So we want a createperson.cshtml file. Okay, so in here, we're changing it to this. There's our begin form. I like to put this stuff over. In fact, I like to separate out my div areas. Okay, there'll be the ID, the first name, the last name, and a submit button. Let's double check. I don't know, they haven't told us to do this, but let's run it and see if it looks any different. All right, well, that's what we got at the beginning, but again, we need to iterate over to home/create person. And you can see it looks the same. Now, the author mentions we had to treat the call to the helper methods as C# statements. This is because of the way that helper methods write their tags to the output. Okay? So we are to go back into our create person. What they show here, and I don't think that this is going to involve any extra code, but you saw the using. Okay? When we use a using HTML begin form, then we don't have to add an end form tag. And a lot of people like that. It's just a little bit less code, so we change that to this. Okay? Which means we don't need this. But we do need, I believe, the ending curly. And if we go and save this and run it, we should see absolutely no difference in our output. So this approach in here, and let's go back to home create person. As the author says, this approach is known as a self-closing form. All right. There are 12, the other 12 variations for the begin form allow you to change different aspects of the form element that is created. There is a lot of repetition in these overloads as they allow you to be incrementally more specific. In other words, you can work your way down and be more granular in what you decide to change and how you decide to change it. So some of these are shown here on the middle of page 605. The author says, I have shown you the simplest form or version of begin form, which is all we need for this example. All right. Now in figure 2119 on pages 605 and 606, they show you one of the more advanced, if not the most advanced version. So, oops, let's grab this. Replace it like this. All right. And you can see there's more parameters passed in. There's more information we're providing. All right. The form's ID, the method being used, the class it's associated with, and the data form type. So as the author mentions here, in this example, we have explicitly specified some details that would have automatically otherwise been inferred by the MVC framework. All right. And the author mentions then on 606, says you can see that the value for the ID attribute has been appended by the target URL. So, I mean, it'll do a little more, you're doing a little bit more work, but you could argue and say, yes, I am, but at the same time, I'm providing more information to the system. I'm taking more control over the program, so there's less chance of it not doing what I want it to do. And I guess you could make a solid argument for that. All right, we're at 14 and a half minutes. So rather than going on to specifying the route used by the form, I'm going to end here right now, and we'll do probably 1 or 2 or 3, whatever it is, more lessons for this chapter when I return.